shadows fall, truth rises. In the dead of night, a figure cloaked in shadows leans over a keyboard, their fingers flying across the keys with the urgency of a ticking time bomb. The screen glows with a video upload, their last desperate attempt to expose a truth the world isn't ready to face. They whisper, their voice shaking but resolute. 4 figures pulling the strings, controlling everything. The video, a dangerous puzzle of damning evidence, goes live with a single click. It's out there now, unstoppable, or so they think. But as the seconds tick by, the air around them grows heavy, the silence deafening. A sharp sound cuts through the tension. A metallic whir, then silence. In a single surgical strike, the whistleblower falls, lifeless, as the glow of the screen fades to black. By dawn, the video has gone viral, a wildfire of intrigue and outrage spreading across the digital landscape. Yet, just as quickly it vanishes, erased from every platform as though it never existed. Only a fragmented clip survives, a haunting whisper of 4 shadowy figures who remain untouchable, unknowable, and more dangerous than ever. The evening was serene, the kind Poirot cherished, with every detail of his home reflecting his precise nature. A perfectly arranged tea tray rested on the table, and the faint aroma of bergamot lingered in the air. But the stillness shattered with a sudden, desperate pounding at the door. Poirot, startled but composed, set down his cup and moved to answer, his mind already calculating possibilities. On the doorstep stood a man, disheveled and ghostly pale, his breath coming in ragged gasps. His hands trembled as he thrust a small USB drive toward Poirot, his eyes wild with urgency. "Beware, the 4, he whispered, his voice strained and barely audible. Then, as if the warning had drained the last of his strength, the man crumpled to the ground, lifeless. Poirot knelt beside him, his sharp gaze sweeping over the man's appearance, a bloodied collar, mud-caked shoes, and the faint, lingering scent of tobacco. His death was violent but deliberate. This was no random act. With a furrowed brow and an unspoken determination, Poirot gently retrieved the USB drive from the man's rigid grip and slipped it into his pocket. Inside his study, Poirot studied the device as though it were a riddle waiting to be solved. He connected it to his computer, and the screen flickered to life, revealing an encrypted file, layers upon layers of complexity designed to hide something critical. Poirot's lips curled into a small, knowing smile. "Ah," he murmured to himself, "a puzzle worthy of my time." The dying man's warning, the cryptic drive, and the weight of those 3 words, "Beware the 4," cast a shadow over the room. The air felt charged with tension, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. Poirot leaned back in his chair, his mind already pulling at the threads of the mystery. Whoever the 4 were, they had just made their first mistake, underestimating Hercule Poirot. Poirot sat in his study, staring at the screen, the encrypted file taunting him with its stubborn complexity. His mind, sharp as ever, worked through possibilities, but this puzzle required tools outside the realm of his usual expertise. He prided himself on his ability to outthink his adversaries. Yet this was a battlefield of code, algorithms, and modernity that defied even his brilliant logic. With a reluctant sigh, he made a call, his distaste for admitting defeat evident in the measured tone of his voice. Hours later, the quiet of his home was disrupted by the sharp, purposeful click of heels against the polished floor. Lily Chase entered the room like a storm contained in a crisp black suit, her eyes scanning the space with clinical efficiency. She carried a sleek laptop under one arm and an air of no-nonsense competence that contrasted sharply with Poirot's carefully cultivated old-world charm. "You're the great Hercule Poirot," she said, setting her laptop down with a decisive thud. "I didn't think you'd need help cracking a file." Her tone was polite, but edged with skepticism. Poirot arched an eyebrow, his fingers steepling in front of him. "Mademoiselle, it is not the needing of help that troubles me. It is the methods employed by those who offer it." Lily smirked, pulling out a chair and opening her laptop. "Well, your methods are charming, I'm sure, but this file isn't going to respond to a brilliant deduction or a monologue." She tapped a few keys, her fingers moving with the speed and confidence of someone born in the digital age. "You'll have to trust me on this one." Poirot watched her work, his expression a mix of intrigue and skepticism. He couldn't deny her expertise. She unraveled layers of encryption with a precision that reminded him of his own meticulous approach. But the process lacked poetry, he thought. It was efficient, yes, but it was also cold, clinical, devoid of the elegance he so valued in his investigations. "I see," he said finally, leaning forward. "But tell me, Mademoiselle Chase, do you ever pause to consider the story behind the code? The mind behind the machine? It is not only the what, but the why that unlocks a mystery." Lily glanced at him, her smirk softening into something almost respectful. "Maybe, but sometimes, Monsieur Poirot, the what gets us to the why faster." And so, the partnership began, an unlikely pairing of old-world finesse and cutting-edge innovation, each driven by a shared determination to uncover the truth. The encrypted file was only the beginning, a mere spark in what was about to become a blazing inferno of conspiracy and danger. The study was silent, save for the hum of Lily Chase's laptop and Poirot's deliberate pacing. Hours of work had culminated in this moment, the fragments of the encrypted file now displayed on the screen, like pieces of a jigsaw puzzle waiting to be assembled. Poirot leaned closer, his keen eyes scanning the data, while Lily's fingers moved deftly across the keyboard, pulling pieces together. The room felt charged, the air thick with anticipation, and then, like a storm breaking, the truth emerged. "What is this?" Lily muttered, her voice tinged with disbelief. Poirot's gaze sharpened as the fragmented information began to take shape. Plans, schedules, and communications, all pointing to something unthinkable. The file detailed a sinister trifecta, a high-profile political assassination designed to destabilize nations, a coordinated cyber attack on global financial systems to incite economic collapse, and a calculated manipulation of media outlets to spread disinformation and chaos. Each act was horrifying on its own, but together they formed a chilling vision of global upheaval. "This is no ordinary conspiracy," Poirot said, his voice low but steady. "This is a symphony of chaos." He straightened, his mind racing to connect the dots. "Each event is designed to weaken the world's foundations, political instability, financial ruin, and public distrust. It is a recipe for global domination," Lily finished, her voice cold with realization. She sat back, staring at the screen, the weight of the discovery sinking in. They're not just causing chaos for the sake of it. They're planning to step in and take control when everything falls apart. The world in ruins, and they're the ones standing on the rubble. Poirot nodded, his expression grave. An organization with resources this vast, this calculated, they will not be easy to stop. Lily's hands hovered over the keyboard, her jaw tightening. "But they've made one mistake. They left this." She gestured to the USB drive. "It's not much, but it's enough to know who we're dealing with." Poirot folded his arms, his expression contemplative but resolute. "The shadow conspiracy," he murmured. "They believe they are untouchable, that they can hide behind their chaos, But now, Mademoiselle Chase, we have seen the shadows, and Hercule Poirot always sees the light. The stakes were clearer than ever. They weren't just uncovering a conspiracy. They were racing against an organization with the power to reshape the world. And with every second, the clock ticked closer to disaster. The fragmented puzzle of the shadow conspiracy was beginning to take shape. Poirot and Lily sat in the dim glow of the study, poring over the decrypted files, their discoveries casting long shadows over the room. The scope of the operation was staggering, but even in the chaos, Poirot's meticulous mind found order. 4 figures emerged from the shadows, their roles distinct yet terrifyingly interconnected, each one a pillar of the grand design. The Strategist, Poirot began, his voice steady as he gestured to a photograph pulled from the files. It showed a grizzled man with cold, calculating eyes, his military posture unmistakable. A retired general, once revered for his tactical brilliance, now orchestrating rogue militias across unstable regions. He provides the muscle, the chaos on the ground, destabilizing governments and creating the perfect storm for their plan. Lily leaned forward, scrolling to the next profile. "And here we have the Manipulator," she said, her tone laced with disdain. The image of a smug, polished media mogul filled the screen. He owns half the major media outlets in the world. Controlling the narrative is his game. Fake news, mass hysteria, targeted misinformation. He's their voice, keeping the world blind while they pull the strings. Poirot nodded grimly. A most insidious role, but not without its counterpart. "Observe, Mademoiselle Chase." He pointed to another file, this one marked with financial records so vast they seemed almost fictional. The Financier, a tech billionaire charming to the public but in truth the mastermind funding this chaos. He bankrolls the operations, provides the resources, and ensures their reach is limitless. Without him, the machine would crumble. Lily's expression hardened as she pulled up the final file. "And then there's the Enforcer," she said, her voice dropping to a near whisper. The screen displayed a shadowy figure, their face obscured, their record a chilling collection of assassinations. A ghost, no face, no identity, just death. They're the one who silences threats, eliminates obstacles, and ensures no loose ends. The muscle behind their precision. Poirot steepled his fingers, his gaze fixed on the files. "Together, these 4 form a web of control," he said, his tone heavy with resolve. "Each one essential to the conspiracy's success, each one playing their part with devastating precision. But, as with all such webs, it takes only one thread to unravel the whole." Lily straightened, determination flashing in her eyes. "Then we start pulling threads," she said. "We divide and conquer. You focus on the Strategist and the Manipulator. I'll take the Financier and the Enforcer. We figure out what makes them tick, where they operate, and how to hit them where it hurts." Poirot's lips curved into a faint smile. "A most ambitious plan, mademoiselle, but one that requires finesse. These are not ordinary adversaries. We must anticipate their moves, outthink them at every turn." "That's the idea," Lily said, her fingers already flying across her laptop. "I'll handle the tech, the data trails, the digital breadcrumbs. You do what you do best. Get inside their heads, find the cracks in their armor." Poirot rose, straightening his jacket with an air of quiet confidence. "Then let us begin," he said. "The shadows may hide their secrets, but Hercule Poirot has never been afraid of the dark." And so, the chase began. 2 minds, vastly different yet perfectly complementary, set against 4 masterminds who had built their empires in the shadows. It was a battle of intellect, strategy, and courage, with the fate of the world hanging in the balance. The hunt for the shadow conspiracy's masterminds thrust Poirot and Lily into a whirlwind of danger and intrigue, each step taking them closer to unraveling the web of chaos and closer to peril. The plan was simple on paper, but fraught with complexities in execution. Poirot would attend the high-security financial summit in London to confront the Financier, while Lily would dive into the heart of Tokyo's underground hacker networks to trace the Strategist's operations. Their separate missions were tethered by a single, unyielding goal: to dismantle the conspiracy, no matter the cost. Poirot arrived at the Grand Financial Summit, a sprawling event held in the glimmering heights of a skyscraper overlooking the Thames. The world's most influential figures in banking, technology, and global finance mingled in an atmosphere thick with power and pretense. Dressed impeccably, Poirot navigated the glittering crowd, his sharp eyes scanning every detail, every face. His target was the Financier, a man celebrated as a tech visionary but whose wealth was a cornerstone of the shadow conspiracy's operations. The encounter came sooner than expected. The Financier, tall and charismatic with a disarming smile, approached Poirot himself, extending a hand. "Monsieur Poirot," he said smoothly, his tone like polished glass. "Your reputation precedes you. I must admit I'm intrigued by your presence here. What brings a detective to such lofty heights?" Poirot returned the handshake, his smile calm but calculating. "Curiosity, monsieur, a most powerful motivator. It is said that where wealth gathers, so too do complications." The financier's smile faltered, just for a fraction of a second. It was enough for Poirot to sense the layers of deceit beneath the man's polished exterior. But the conversation was cut short when Poirot noticed a shift in the atmosphere, a subtle tightening of the crowd around him, an orchestrated movement. The room seemed to close in as a man in a security uniform approached. "Mr. Poirot," the man said, his voice clipped, "I'm afraid you'll need to come with us. There's been an issue with your credentials." Poirot's mind raced. A staged scandal, a trap to discredit him or remove him quietly. But Poirot, ever the master of observation, had already noted the exits, the guards' routines, and the telltale nervousness of an accomplice near the buffet table. With a calm demeanor, he turned to the Financier. "It seems I am needed elsewhere, monsieur, but rest assured our conversation is far from over." Poirot's escape was both subtle and elegant, using the very crowd that sought to entrap him as his shield. As he slipped into the night, his suspicions about the Financier solidified. This man was not just funding chaos, he thrived on it. Halfway across the world, Lily Chase was diving into a completely different battlefield. The neon-soaked streets of Tokyo buzzed with life, a stark contrast to the shadowy underworld she had to infiltrate. Disguised as an eager hacker, she worked her way into a clandestine network rumored to have ties to the Strategist. The meeting point was a dimly lit bar tucked in the back alleys of Shinjuku, where whispers of encrypted codes and black market deals filled the air. Lily played her part flawlessly, spinning a story of expertise in cyber infiltration and data manipulation. It wasn't long before she was led to a private room where the network's leader, a sharp-eyed man with a digital tablet in hand, waited. "You're good," he said, scanning her with a skeptical gaze. "But everyone has a price. What's yours?" "Truth," Lily replied, her tone sharp and unwavering. "I hear the Strategist pays well for loyalty. But I don't sell loyalty. I sell results." The leader smirked. But before the conversation could continue, Lily's instincts screamed at her. She caught the faintest reflection in the tablet screen, a shadow moving outside the room. She was being hunted. The enforcer had found her. Reacting instantly, Lily flipped the table, scattering its contents and diving for cover as the room erupted into chaos. A silenced gunshot shattered a glass panel, the bullet embedding itself where she had been standing moments before. The hacker network scattered, but Lily stayed focused, using the confusion to slip out through a hidden exit she'd scouted earlier. The alley outside was no safer. She sprinted through the maze of back streets, her heart pounding as she evaded the relentless pursuit. It wasn't until she reached a crowded train station that she finally lost her shadow, blending into the throng of commuters. Catching her breath, she clutched the flash drive she'd swiped from the hacker leader, a vital piece of intel on the Strategist. By night's end, both Poirot and Lily had narrowly escaped traps that had been laid with surgical precision. Their missions had brought them closer to understanding the enormity of the conspiracy, but also closer to danger than ever before. Reuniting in a secure location, the weight of their discoveries hung heavy in the air. "We're not just chasing shadows," Lily said, her voice steady despite the adrenaline still coursing through her veins. "They're chasing us now." Poirot nodded, his expression somber but resolute. "And yet, mademoiselle, the closer we come to danger, the closer we come to the truth. Let us hope we are prepared for what lies ahead." The stakes had never been higher, and the shadows around them were growing darker. But both knew there was no turning back now. The chase was far from over. The tension in the room was electric. An invisible thread pulled taut as Poirot and Lily pored over their latest findings. The data they'd collected from London and Tokyo had revealed more than just the machinations of the shadow conspiracy. It hinted at a fracture within their ranks. Somewhere among the four, one of the masterminds wasn't following the script. Poirot's keen mind worked through the implications while Lily, ever sharp and pragmatic, voiced the thought hanging heavily between them. "Someone's sabotaging the operation," she said, her words cutting through the silence. "But why? And who?" Poirot's fingers tapped rhythmically against the armrest of his chair, his expression unreadable. "A curious development indeed," he murmured. "A betrayal within such a meticulously orchestrated conspiracy. It is most unexpected, yet it holds a peculiar logic. Even in the most calculated plans, human nature finds its way. Greed, fear, ambition, they erode loyalty like a river carving through stone." Lily leaned against the desk, arms crossed, her gaze fixed on the scattered evidence before them. "It could be the Strategist," she offered. "Maybe he's grown tired of playing second fiddle and wants to take control. Or the Manipulator," Poirot countered, his voice calm but weighted. "Perhaps he sees an opportunity to use the chaos for his own gain, to rewrite the narrative in his favor." "And what about the Financier?" Lily asked, narrowing her eyes. "He's the one funding this whole operation. If he pulled out, the entire conspiracy would collapse." Poirot nodded thoughtfully, then spoke with deliberate care. "And let us not forget the Enforcer, a role so shrouded in secrecy, it would be the perfect guise for a traitor." The possibilities hung in the air, each more dangerous than the last. But as Poirot and Lily debated the motives of their adversaries, an unspoken tension began to creep into their own partnership. The stakes had never been higher, and the shadow of mistrust threatened to fall between them. "You're awfully quick to defend the Financier," Lily said suddenly, her tone sharper than intended. "Why is that?" Poirot's eyes flicked to her, his gaze steady and unflinching. "And you, Mademoiselle Chase, seem quite determined to implicate the Strategist. I wonder, do you speak from suspicion or personal bias?" The room fell silent, the weight of their words settling like a storm cloud. For the first time since their alliance began, the unity that had driven them forward seemed to falter. Both understood the stakes, the danger of turning against each other, but the seeds of doubt had been sown. "I'm not the enemy, Poirot," Lily said finally, her voice quieter but no less firm. "And I need to know you're not either." Poirot rose from his chair, his movements slow and deliberate. "Mistrust is a weapon the shadow conspiracy wields with precision," he said, his tone measured. "If we allow it to divide us, we will have already lost." Lily met his gaze, the tension between them palpable. "Then let's settle this," she said. "We narrow it down. One of the four is playing their own game, and we figure out who before they take us down with them." Poirot inclined his head, his expression softening just slightly. "Agreed, mademoiselle. But let us tread carefully. The enemy of our enemy may yet be our friend, or our greatest foe." With their fragile trust hanging by a thread, Poirot and Lily turned back to the evidence, their determination renewed but tempered by caution. The revelation of a traitor had introduced a dangerous new element to their mission, one that threatened not only their success, but their very survival. As the shadows deepened around them, they knew the path ahead would be fraught with deception, danger, and the ever-present question: who could they trust? The night was thick with tension as Poirot and Lily approached the abandoned warehouse, its looming silhouette framed by a haze of flickering streetlights. It was the kind of place where shadows seemed to whisper secrets, and danger thrummed in the air like an unspoken threat. The tip that had led them here had been cryptic, almost too convenient, but the urgency of their mission left no room for hesitation. Every step they took into the cavernous, decaying structure felt like descending deeper into a trap they couldn't yet see. Inside, the air was cold and damp, carrying the faint scent of rust and oil. The warehouse was a labyrinth of crates, rusted machinery, and forgotten tools, all shrouded in darkness. Poirot's eyes darted over every detail, his mind racing to piece together the unseen puzzle. Lily, armed and alert, moved with the precision of someone who knew a fight could break out at any moment. "Something feels off," Lily muttered, her voice low but steady. "Why would they lure us here? What's the angle?" Poirot didn't respond immediately. He was studying the scene, every element like a piece on a chessboard waiting to reveal its purpose. Finally, he spoke, his voice calm but laced with a quiet urgency. "Because, mademoiselle, the most effective traps are those that play on our instincts. They want us distracted, focused on what lies in front of us while they work behind the curtain." Before Lily could respond, the lights overhead flickered and went out completely, plunging the warehouse into complete darkness. The sound of heavy, deliberate footsteps echoed from the shadows, each one a heartbeat closer. "The enforcer," Lily whispered, gripping her weapon tighter. "Indeed," Poirot said, his voice unnervingly steady. "And I suspect we are not merely his targets, but the players in a carefully orchestrated game." A voice cut through the darkness, deep and chilling, with an edge of mockery that sent a shiver down their spines. "So, the great detective and his loyal ally have come to play. Welcome. Let's see if you're as clever as they say." The enforcer emerged briefly into view, his face obscured by a black mask, his movements calculated and predatory. He disappeared into the shadows as quickly as he'd appeared, a phantom in the night. A loud metallic clang echoed through the warehouse. A signal, a taunt, or both. Lily raised her weapon, scanning the darkness with precision. "He's toying with us." "Non, mademoiselle," Poirot said softly. "He is testing us. This is not a hunt, it is a distraction. Observe." A faint, rhythmic sound caught Poirot's attention. A ticking. His sharp eyes followed the source to a nearby crate, its lid ajar. He approached cautiously, the sound growing louder until he revealed a small ticking device. Not a bomb, but a mechanical decoy, a diversion. "This is his intent," Poirot murmured, his mind racing. "To pull us deeper into this maze while he sets his stage elsewhere. The question is, what is his true goal?" Before an answer could form, a sudden crash shattered the air. A crate toppled from above, narrowly missing Poirot as Lily yanked him back just in time. The enforcer's laughter echoed, cold and merciless. "You're clever, detective," the voice taunted, its source impossible to pinpoint in the vast expanse of the warehouse. "But not clever enough. You'll never stop what's coming." Poirot's mind worked faster than ever, piecing together the intent behind every move. The ticking decoy, the scattered noises, the deliberate close calls, they weren't just distractions. They were breadcrumbs leading away from the truth. The enforcer wanted them here, chasing phantoms while the conspiracy accelerated elsewhere. "Lily," Poirot's voice was sharp, commanding. "We must leave, now." "What?" Lily's tone was incredulous. "We've got him cornered." "No," Poirot interrupted, his voice resolute. "He has us cornered. This is not a fight we are meant to win. It is a diversion, and we cannot afford to play his game." Reluctantly, Lily nodded, trusting Poirot's instincts even as adrenaline coursed through her. Together, they made their way toward the exit, navigating the darkness with precision and speed. But the enforcer wasn't done. A final taunt rang out, his voice echoing like a ghost's whisper. "Run while you can, detective. The endgame is already in motion." In the gripping and heart-stopping step of the story, titled "The Dark and Intricate Web of Manipulation Begins to Unravel with Hercule Poirot at its center," as he uncovers the shocking truth that sends shockwaves through the corridors of power. For all this time, the world believed the chaos was orchestrated by a fragmented group of ruthless individuals, each with their own agenda. But Poirot, with his razor-sharp mind and unparalleled intuition, reveals the staggering truth. The Manipulator, a figure lurking in the shadows, is the true mastermind behind it all. This individual wasn't just stirring up trouble for the sake of anarchy. No, their goal was far more sinister, more calculated. Their ultimate ambition wasn't just to create chaos. It was to seize total control of the global narrative, to rewrite history, to shape perceptions, and to command the very direction of world events. Every move made by the Four was nothing more than a strategic chess piece, manipulated by the Manipulator, who remained hidden in plain sight. But the shocking twist doesn't end there. An unexpected ally emerges from the darkness. The whistleblower, once a trusted operative working under the Manipulator, had a change of heart upon realizing the true depth of the plan. They turned against their former master after uncovering the devastating nature of the endgame, and now they are the key to exposing the mastermind's true intentions. The tension escalates as Poirot, always 3 steps ahead, devises a plan to expose the truth to the world. The final confrontation takes place in the gleaming city of Dubai, a place synonymous with opulence and power, but now it becomes the setting for the ultimate showdown. Poirot lures the remaining members of the conspiracy, the Financier, the Enforcer, the Strategist, and, of course, the Manipulator, under the guise of an emergency summit. Unbeknownst to them, Poirot has orchestrated a brilliant trap, one that will not only bring their dark deeds into the light, but will expose them to the entire globe. With Lily's unparalleled technical skills, the summit is live-streamed, broadcast to every corner of the world, ensuring that the truth will no longer remain buried. As the meeting unfolds, Poirot uses his extraordinary psychological tactics to play each member of the Four against each other, carefully manipulating their fears, their pride, and their insecurities, all while maintaining an air of calm and confidence. The strategy is flawless. Soon, the four find themselves locked in a battle of wits as their individual ambitions and secrets collide. In the aftermath of the storm, as the world begins to piece itself back together, Hercule Poirot stands alone, gazing out over the skyline, a silent reflection on the delicate dance between truth and manipulation that has defined the course of events. The four are dismantled, their twisted empire of power and control brought to its knees. But Poirot knows better than anyone that the victory is fleeting, that truth, no matter how brilliantly uncovered, is always vulnerable to the forces that seek to distort and hide it. In this moment of quiet reflection, Poirot contemplates the ever-present struggle in the modern age, where narratives are as easily crafted as they are destroyed, and where the truth can be both a weapon and a target. Yet, despite the darkness that has plagued the world, Poirot remains resolute in his belief that the pursuit of truth is worth every sacrifice, every challenge. His legacy is not just the unraveling of a conspiracy, but the reminder that even in the face of overwhelming darkness, the light of truth still has the power to shine through, however fleeting that light may be. But this victory, though hard-won, marks only the beginning of a new chapter for those who fought alongside him. Lily, the brilliant tech-savvy agent who has proven herself time and time again, is inspired by Poirot's unwavering commitment to justice. For her, the battle against corruption is far from over. Watching the ripples of the conspiracy's fall spread across the globe, Lily realizes that her path is no longer aligned with the agency she once served. The constraints of bureaucracy and red tape no longer sit well with her. The world needs more than just a system. It needs individuals willing to fight for change, no matter the cost. With a heart full of resolve and a fire lit within her, Lily decides to leave the agency behind, choosing a path of independence. It's not an escape, but a bold step forward into the unknown, one that hints at future adventures where her skills and passion will fuel her fight against corruption. The world may be in chaos, but Lily is no longer just a cog in the machine. She is a force unto herself, ready to take on whatever challenges lie ahead, armed with the lessons learned from Poirot, and a determination that nothing will stop her from exposing the truth. The legacy of shadows, it seems, has only just begun to fade. In the quiet solitude of his study, the faint scratching of Hercule Poirot's pen against paper echoes through the room, a soft rhythm that marks the end of a chapter. As the last of the shadows from the case begin to dissipate, Poirot takes a moment to reflect, not just on the twists and turns of the investigation, but on the deeper questions that have lingered in his mind throughout the ordeal. With the four dismantled and their web of deceit unraveled, the world is left to rebuild. But Poirot knows that this victory, though significant, has raised more questions than answers. With a thoughtful pause, he begins to write a final note, a letter that will encapsulate not only the intricacies of the case but the greater truth that he has come to understand. In his letter, Poirot grapples with a question that has haunted him throughout the investigation. Has humanity's increasing reliance on technology made it more susceptible to manipulation, or has it given us the tools to rise above the very conspiracies that threaten to tear us apart? The world, he muses, is more connected than ever before, yet with that connection comes a fragility, an openness to exploitation by those who understand how to twist and bend the truth. Technology, for all its wonders, is a double-edged sword. On one hand, it has the power to expose lies, to hold the powerful accountable, to shine light in the darkest corners. But on the other, it is a weapon that can be wielded against the very people it is meant to protect. The manipulation of information, the creation of false narratives, the distortion of reality, these are the new battlegrounds, and in this war, the stakes are higher than ever. Yet, as Poirot reflects, there is hope. There is always hope in truth, in the collective will of those who choose to stand against corruption and deceit. In the end, it is not technology that will save humanity, but the strength of individuals united by a common cause, the pursuit of truth. The world may be vulnerable, but it is also resilient. The courage to seek the truth, to confront the darkness head-on, is what has always driven humanity forward, and it is that courage that will continue to guide us, no matter how advanced our technology becomes. As Poirot carefully sets down his pen, he realizes that his work may be done, but the fight for truth will never end. The letter, in its own way, is his final testament, a reminder that no matter how many shadows may fall, there will always be those who rise to chase them away, armed with nothing but their intellect, their conviction, and the unyielding belief that truth is the one thing no conspiracy can ever truly erase.